was mid-morning, it was probably a foolish move. Her head was heavy from the previous night's revelations and drinking, but she wanted some space alone. Larnaka in 2010 was very different from the Larnaka of her youth, she thought. But in some respects, it was getting better. At last, there were signs that some of the old buildings left to ruin were being renovated. There had been a time before she left when it seemed anything with character and history had to be replaced by oversized concrete mediocrity. She was thankful that St. Lazarus's bell tower was still soaring above all the buildings that surrounded it in the square. She was first to arrive at the church. She needed some time alone. The modest coffin stood by the altar, its simplicity a contrast to the opulent interior of the Byzantine cathedral. St. Lazarus, named after the patron saint of Larnaka, was no larger than an average church. Yet once inside, the magnificence of the iconostasis, chandeliers and frescoes left you in no doubt of its importance. Christ's friend had apparently fled to Cyprus for safety after his resurrection and was ordained by St. Paul as the first bishop of the island. He lived there for the rest of his life. Now, deep in the catacombs of the church stands a sarcophagus bearing the inscription "The Friend of Jesus," in which the saint's holy relics are believed to be stored. Every year, on his name day, they are brought up to the church in a heavy silver casket so that the faithful can pay their respects. The cathedral was always Tante's preferred place of worship, and she would take young Eleni there for the Sunday service. Eleni would sit obediently beside the older woman, anxious not to lose her in the crowd. Later, when Eleni was older and rebellious, the girl would reject the oppression of religion and argue fiercely about it. "I don't want to be told what to believe by anyone," she'd sulk. Nevertheless, whenever she felt the need for solitude, she too would seek it in St. Lazarus, rather than in the Catholic church where her grandmother and aunt went to pray. She didn't hear the other two tiptoe into the church, rather sensed them. It was always like that with the three of them. They seemed to know instinctively when one or the other was near. Now, they all needed to sit together for a while before people arrived and the service began. The news of Katerina's death had come as a sad shock to Eleni, Adoniss and Marianna. Tante, as they called her, a variation on the German word for auntie, was neither their aunt nor their blood relative, yet all three loved the old lady like family. They felt deep respect and gratitude towards her. Her influence on them had helped to shape who they'd become. For her part, she'd adored all three. They were the children she never had. They hurried back to Larnaka for her funeral. Eleni from London, Adoniss from New York, and Marianna from Nicosia. Unlike the other two, she didn't have far to travel, just a mere 40-minute drive, a journey which she had lately been making at least twice a month in order to visit the old woman. For Eleni, Katerina was almost a mother. She was hardly more than a year old when her parents, Sonia and Nikos, were killed together in a car crash, and it was Katerina who took care of her and cherished her as her own. It wasn't difficult. Eleni was an adorable child left traumatized by the loss of both parents. Besides, Katerina had also helped to bring up the little girl's mother and aunt years before, when the Second World War was still raging in Europe. The sisters, 6 and 8, were only a few years younger than Katerina when she came into the house as a maid at 13, but her natural maternal and domestic skills shone through. As the Greek Orthodox Church buries its dead immediately, Eleni had had no time to lose and had left London in quite a rush. Her main concern, which proved to be relatively easy to address, was to organize someone to take over her lectures at the university where she was teaching. Home was fine. Simon, her husband, was more than capable of looking after himself and the dog. The kids, Christopher and Anthony, were both away studying. Finally out of their hair, as the saying went. Although, if anything, Eleni liked having her boys in her head.